are talking Cowgirls versus Pterodactyls. This one is written and directed by Joshua Kennedy, who previously directed House of the Gorgon. Now, Kennedy is obviously a fan of kind of old school Hammer monsters, and I'm guessing by this movie, he's probably a fan of the Ray Harryhausen style stop motion effect kind of movies of the past as well. The story is a kind of tongue-in-cheek Western with a group of female heroes wanting to try and rescue one of their husbands from a group of pterodactyls that have kind of set up nest near a small kind of western village. We have a school teacher, we have a prostitute, and we have a gunslinger, all women, and then we have this random fourth character who we'll talk about, who is a female outlaw as well, played by Dani Thompson. And we get these girls obviously shrugging off their stereotypes and going after these pterodactyls in all stop motion glory. Super low budget, super kind of tongue-in-cheek and kind of campy. There is some quite amusing sequences here, I will have to say, in regards to when they kind of look back and they remember something that's happened. The film literally kind of rewinds and kind of goes back to that place and has a few kind of like, oh look, city kind of Scott Pilgrim-esque style, breaking the kind of like the fourth wall style things. So it's obviously not meant to be taken seriously at all. What can we say that works in this film? Yeah, it's kind of a weird, campy, kitsch movie in a kind of a silly sort of fun way. Despite the effects looking incredibly bad, it is still quite fun to see stop motion effects, I have to say. I mean, if you can kind of look at it in the lens of what these sort of type of effects used to be like, and maybe this will depend on the age of the person watching it, because obviously I used to watch, you know, Jason and the Argonauts and things like that when I was young, and I always used to love those movies, and it kind of takes me back to those, you know, those sort of Sinbad movies and things like that. And it is quite fun seeing those sort of effects, and I always quite enjoy as the pterodactyls pick humans up, and we see the kind of like the little animated humans and stuff. I kind of got a bit of a kick out of it, I have to say. I did actually think some of the kind of like the little jokey elements as well were quite fun, and it has this kind of like this campiness to it that was sort of super silly. And we have we actually, although it has like, it kind of focuses on 4 female characters, sort of, but then we have like a group of other kind of like supporting women cast who are actually other prostitutes from this kind of brothel that end up there, and they're all kind of quite fun and kind of have their own sort of thing going on. And again, there's some quite kind of funny kind of little one-liners here and there. For example, we have a woman who wears like kind of bearskin, and someone calls her a furry, which is obviously a kind of a modern sort of terminology of a sexual thing, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I thought some of the kind of the dialogue was silly and fun and stuff like that. What doesn't work though, to be honest though, this movie is a bad film. It's not. It's kind of a fun curiosity piece, because obviously it's using its stop motion effects and has this kind of weird kind of camp. But at the same time, it's not a particularly well made film in any stretch of the imagination. I mentioned Dani Thompson, who is a British actress who is kind of becoming a little bit of a kind of a screen queen here. I suspect her scenes were reshoots, because she never really interacts with anyone else in the same scene. There's a couple of instances where she's superimposed into with other sort of characters, just like very couple of quick shots and stuff. But it just seems, why even bother having the character there? She doesn't actually contribute anything to the plot. Could have just been one of these other prostitutes. It really just seemed like they were running out of, they needed more kind of to pad out the running time or something. It just seemed like an odd choice. It really sticks out because she has a lot of her scenes on her own, and they're completely extraneous to the actual main kind of plot and stuff. And only right at the end do we have, like, you know, shots of her doing something well that seemed to be added into the action. So that was quite distracting, I have to say, and seemed completely unnecessary. The effects, as much as I kind of liked looking at them and enjoying them for the kind of like the low budget campiness, I don't know if that's going to appeal to a lot of people because these effects do look extremely cheap. And when we have close-ups where you can see literal paper mache monster heads and things like this, and we have scenes where we have the dinosaur, the pterodactyl eggs, and they've made texture by using bubble wrap on it and things like this, so it kind of looks obviously cheap. And it's like, I think some people may get the joke, but I think some other people, and to be honest with you, most people will just see this and just thinking, oh my god, it's so kind of camp and cheesy. The acting, yeah, obviously it's kind of played for camp, and I always think some people don't know how to then review it or then have an opinion on it because, oh, it's kind of cheesy fun, therefore you can't take it too seriously, you can't, it's almost critic proof. But I don't subscribe to that. Yeah, the acting isn't brilliant, and I'm kind of being kind when I say that. I did kind of like some of the characters, but we don't really ever feel like, because the acting is so wooden for the most part, and there are a couple of ones I think do a little bit better, but ironically they seem to be the smaller parts. But it's just, you can't ever really buy into the characters. You're kind of watching them ironically, is the best way I would just kind of describe it. But you can never, because of that, you never really are on the journey with the characters. You're only kind of looking at them as a kind of like, haha, look at this cheesy, crappy movie that's obviously trying to be like this kitsch kind of B-movie sort of style thing. I think some of the actual camera work is dreadful. We have sequences where there's just a lot of shaking around when it didn't need to be, things like this. There's some very kind of poorly staged sequences with other sort of like smaller characters, like a gunfight and it's kind of like this bar, things like that. No one looks very confident in their acting. Some of the editing is pretty bad. It's a film that I think is made to be somewhat ridiculed in a way, deliberately so. But it would have been better as a short. Let me put it like this: if this was made as a kind of a short on a compilation, like an anthology, I think people would get the joke. I think people would appreciate the homage to the kind of like the stop motion effects as a whole, and the kind of the retro feel. It even has like little, film grain and stuff added onto it. So I appreciate it, but for a full length movie, you're asking somewhat of a commitment there, and I don't think people are in on the joke for that amount of time. This would have much better been a cut down, added in short. To be honest, there's not enough story here to be a full-length movie anyway. As I've mentioned, I suspect this movie was padded out with scenes involving Dani Thompson anyway to make it a feature-length movie. That is my speculation. I'm not saying that is the case, but it certainly feels like that. And kind of the joke gets a little bit old, and it kind of is a little bit of a, oh man, I kind of want this to end now because I've kind of feel like I've seen everything that I'm going to see, and you have. So I can't really give this one much more than a 3 out of 10. If you do like stop motion, and I know there are fans of it, you may want to check it out just as a kind of a fun kind of trip down memory lane. But there are films that do use this technique, but still take it somewhat seriously, whilst this one doesn't, and I think the joke is lost in a feature-length movie. 3 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.